How many of us, honestly, believe that once we hit 65, we've already navigated the hardest parts of our health journey? We think we know the rules. We watch our blood pressure. We take the walks. We keep our minds active. But what if I told you that for one 68-year-old in Ohio, a man who did everything right, the very thing he thought was keeping him safe, was actually the silent architect of his tragic end? He wasn't sick. Not in the way we usually think. He didn't have a terminal diagnosis or a failing heart. Yet, on a Tuesday morning, a routine choice exposed a fatal risk that most of us are walking toward right now, completely blind. There is a golden rule of aging that we've all been told to follow, but for this man, following it was his last mistake. Something critical is missing from the conversation about health after 65, and by the time you realize what it is, the window to fix it might have already slammed shut. In the world of gerontology, we often point to the 1990s as a turning point. That's when researchers like Dr. Linda Fried began defining frailty not as an inevitable part of aging, but as a specific medical syndrome. But here's the twist. While the science of aging was advancing, the public advice remained frozen in time. We are still operating on health models from the 1970s. Medical research now shows that after age 70, the body undergoes a biological pivot. A study published in The Lancet highlighted that the way our cells process energy changes fundamentally during this decade. But there's a hidden risk, a phenomenon known as anabolic resistance, that most seniors never hear about until it's too late. It's a silent shift that turns your healthy habits into a house of cards. We think we are building a foundation, but for many golden people, we are actually building on quicksand. To understand why that 68-year-old man lost his life, we have to look back more than 40 years. In our 20s and 30s, the body is a fortress of physiological reserve. We can skip sleep, eat poorly, or lead sedentary lives because our systems have an incredible capacity to bounce back. This is the origin of the issue. We develop a psychology of invincibility. We believe that health is something we have rather than something we must actively maintain. We start banking bad habits that don't show up on a lab report for decades. Then come the 40s. This is when the quiet shift begins. According to American Health Surveys, this is the decade where muscle mass begins to decline by about 1% every year. It's subtle. You don't feel it? You might just notice you're a little more tired after a weekend of yard work. This is where the silent erosion starts. We compensate by slowing down, thinking we're being careful, but we're actually accelerating the very process that will eventually betray us. Most ignore the shift that happens as we approach 70. This is the point of no return for many. Data from the CDC suggests that after 65, the risk of a sentinel event, a fall or a minor infection that leads to a major decline, increases by 300%. Why? Because that physiological reserve we had in our 20s is gone. The 68-year-old man in our story thought he was fine because his numbers looked good on paper. But he didn't realize his body no longer had the buffer to handle a single moment of stress. The breaking point for him was a simple trip in the kitchen. Not a fall in the traditional sense, but a loss of balance. In his 40s, he would have caught himself. In his 60s, his nervous system wasn't fast enough. The problem became visible instantly, a fractured hip. But the fracture wasn't the fatal part. The fatal risk was the cascade of complications that follows when a body has no muscle reserve and a compromised immune response factors. He was never told to monitor the fallout of this. Tragedy wasn't just physical, it was financial and emotional. His family spent his entire retirement savings on 18 months of intensive care that could have been avoided. And here is the saddest part. He tried to fix it. He followed the old advice. He walked every day. He ate a low-calorie diet. But the science of the 2020s tells us that walking is enough to stop anabolic resistance, and low-calorie diets in seniors often lead to muscle wasting rather than health. He was using a 1970s map to navigate a 2024 landscape. This isn't just one man's story. It's a pattern repeating across millions of seniors in the United States. Recent studies show that 1 in 3 adults over 65 falls each year, and for many, it's the beginning of a rapid decline. We are seeing a sarcopenia epidemic that is hidden behind normal BMI numbers. You can look healthy and be at high risk. The fatal risk is the gap between what we think we know about aging and what is actually happening inside our cells. So, what was the one thing he could have done? What was the missing piece that would have changed his entire trajectory? It's something so simple, yet so overlooked by the traditional medical system. We focus on the visible metrics: weight, blood pressure, cholesterol, but we ignore the functional metrics that actually determine if you'll survive a crisis. If you are over 60, you must take these 3 actions today. 1. Prioritize protein. Most seniors are chronically under-eating protein. To fight anabolic resistance, you need more protein now than you did in your 30s. Aim for 25 to 30 grams per meal. 2. Resistance training. Walking is great for your heart, but it won't save your life in a fall. You must challenge your muscles with resistance at least twice a week. 3. Test your balance. Don't wait for a fall to know you're at risk. Practice standing on one leg every morning while you brush your teeth. If you can't hold it for 10 seconds, you are in the danger zone. The warning. Relying solely on cardio as you age is a dangerous gamble. Without muscle, your metabolism stalls and your buffer against illness vanishes. The open thought. We've talked about the physical risk today, but there is another silent killer that starts in the brain around age 72, and it's linked directly to the foods we were told were heart healthy for the last more than 40 years. We'll dive into that in the next video. If this story opened your eyes, please this video and share it with someone you care about. We need to change the conversation about aging before more golden people fall through the cracks. Comment below with your thoughts. Have you felt this shift in your own life? And finally, subscribe to Golden Life After 50 to join our community of creators who are reclaiming their health and rewriting their future. You aren't just aging, you're evolving. Let's do it together.